Welcome to The Explainer. Right now, there's this invisible war being fought over electricity, and it is entirely driven by the AI boom. So today, we're diving into a highly anticipated investment report on GE Hitachi nuclear energy. We're going to see how 50-year-old physics might literally be the thing that saves Silicon Valley.
Now here's the massive question. How will AI data centers actually get their power? This is arguably the defining engineering and economic challenge of our decade. Modern AI models require these sprawling, massive data centers run by tech titans like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. But the thing is, these facilities have a staggering, continuous appetite for electricity. They do not sleep. They need massive amounts of power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without a single interruption.
And to keep these AI brains running, big tech is chasing this new gold standard. It's called CF100. That stands for carbon-free 100%. Basically, it means a continuous supply of carbon-free electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, traditional renewables like wind and solar, they're fantastic, but they have a bit of a fatal flaw for data centers: intermittency. You know, the sun sets, the wind stops blowing. So to achieve true CF100 without falling back on fossil fuel backups, the energy sector is experiencing a massive pivot toward a nuclear renaissance. It's really the only reliable, scalable, zero-carbon baseload power source out there that fits the bill.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today's briefing. First, we'll look at the AI energy boom. Second, we'll meet GE Hitachi. Third, we'll break down their BWRX-300 technology. Fourth, we'll look at their market traction. And finally, we'll cover the investor's perspective. Let's get to it.
Part 1. The AI energy boom. Surging demand for reliable nuclear power.
The macro trend here is just unmistakable. Big tech absolutely requires constant, massive baseload power. And as we just mentioned, intermittent renewables simply cannot guarantee that on their own. So, ironically enough, the solution to powering massive, sprawling tech infrastructure is actually getting smaller. Enter small modular reactors, or SMRs. These are really emerging as the golden ticket. See, instead of building giant conventional nuclear plants that take decades to finish, SMRs offer a highly scalable solution. They can be manufactured in components, scaled up as demand grows, and potentially even be co-located to provide carbon-free energy directly to these power-hungry data centers. It's a real game changer. Moving right along to Part 2, meet GE Hitachi, a legacy of nuclear engineering.
Now, GE Hitachi isn't some fresh-faced startup out of a garage. This is a formidable joint venture formed back in 2007 by two absolute titans of industry. We're talking about the American industrial giant GE and the Japanese powerhouse Hitachi. They're headquartered in Wilmington, North Carolina, and this entity was really built by combining decades of deep, highly specialized engineering heritage from both of its parent companies.
And they are a comprehensive nuclear powerhouse. They don't just draft blueprints and pass them off. They handle the whole shebang. End-to-end nuclear plant design and construction. They license original technology, they manufacture global nuclear fuel, and they even provide maintenance and life extension solutions for existing legacy plants. Basically, they have their hands in absolutely every vital segment of the nuclear life cycle.
Which brings us to Part 3, the BWRX-300 technology, simplifying the future of nuclear power.
300 megawatts electric. That is the output of their flagship small modular reactor, the BWX-300. But the real genius here isn't that they invented some totally new, wildly experimental physics. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. It's based on over 50 years of proven boiling water reactor heritage from GE. They literally took half a century of validated, trusted science and miniaturized it, optimizing it for the modern grid.
And the real technological edge here is something called passive safety. Think about traditional, large-scale reactors for a second. They require really complex active safety systems, pumps, backup generators, operator intervention, just to keep the core cool in an emergency. The BWRX-300, on the other hand, utilizes simple physics. It uses natural circulation to cool the core without needing any external power or human intervention. By relying on the laws of nature rather than complex machinery, they can drastically simplify the whole structure, and that slashes the construction cost per megawatt compared to those massive legacy reactors.
All right, Part 4, traction and global partnerships, building reality, not just blueprints. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is
This timeline for the Ontario Power Generation Darlington site up in Canada. It's an absolute game changer. Right now, in the present phase, they are actually engaged in physical site construction. While so many SMR competitors are still stuck in regulatory limbo, endlessly revising blueprints, GE Hitachi is already pouring concrete. They are literally the very first in the Western Hemisphere to enter the physical construction phase for a commercial SMR project. They're targeting completion in 2029 and commercial operation by 2030. Having this physical reality under their belt creates a massive competitive moat.
And Darlington is really just the beachhead. Globally, we're seeing them expand incredibly fast. Besides the construction underway in Canada, they're collaborating with the TVA at Clinch River in the US. Over in Poland, they've secured an exclusive tech partnership for up to 20 units. Meanwhile, in the UK, they are steadily passing strict, step-by-step design evaluations. And you know why? Because their tech is based on that proven, 50-year-old boiling water reactor physics. Regulators are finding it much, much easier to approve compared to entirely novel, unproven reactor designs.
Let's pivot to Part 5, the investor's perspective, navigating the financial realities.
So naturally, it's the most common question after seeing a company with such a massive lead. Can you buy GE Hitachi stock? You might be eager to open your brokerage app right this second, but here is the catch. GE Hitachi is an unlisted joint venture. No way around it, you cannot buy direct, pure-play shares in GE Hitachi on the open market.
However, don't worry, there are indirect investment pathways. Investors really have to look to the parent companies here. You can gain exposure through GE Vernova, which trades on the New York Stock Exchange, or through Hitachi Limited. And what's fantastic about that GE Vernova connection is the massive end-to-end grid synergy. Vernova isn't just about the reactor itself. They handle gas turbines, wind, and the entire electrical grid integration. It really provides a complete energy ecosystem.
So the crucial point is balancing all of this out into a clear reality check, which reveals a pretty fascinating dynamic. The strengths are obvious, right? Over 60 years of heritage, immense parent capital, and that absolutely critical first-mover advantage. The opportunities are explosive too, totally driven by that AI data center CF100 demand we talked about. But the weaknesses and threats are very real. First-of-a-kind construction is notoriously prone to cost overruns, so those initial building expenses are a huge risk factor. And we also have to navigate the socio-political debate surrounding nuclear waste management. That represents a highly tangible variable that investors and project managers simply have to account for impartially.
And of course, GE Hitachi is not operating in a vacuum here. The competitor landscape is absolutely fierce. Global legacy players like Westinghouse, KHNP, and EDF are stepping up, right alongside agile competitors like NuScale Power, Holtec, and Rolls-Royce. The race to dominate the SMR market is, without a doubt, one of the most intensely contested battles in the global infrastructure space right now. Everyone is moving at breakneck speed to try and catch up to GE Hitachi's concrete-pouring lead.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought. As the AI era demands endless clean energy, will the first mover take it all? GE Hitachi has translated decades of engineering into physical concrete, while others are honestly still iterating on paper. But with fierce competition and massive capital at stake, the true test is just beginning. Think about the market forces we've explored today, and ask yourself how this will reshape the grid of tomorrow. Keep tracking the space. It is moving incredibly fast. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer, and keep learning.